Some people are born into power and mistake it for worth. Lennox Hargrove was one of them. And the cruelest part? He had no idea how much it would cost him until the night he discovered that the woman he'd been tormenting in the shadows of his father's empire was the one person who had every right to hate him, but chose grief instead. This is the story of how arrogance shatters when it finally sees itself in the mirror, and how some distances can never be measured in miles, only in the weight of words we can never take back. The Hargrove Tower stands like a glass monument to ambition in the heart of the city. 57 floors of steel and silence, where fortunes are made and lives are forgotten. At the very top, in a penthouse that costs more per month than most people earn in a lifetime, Lennox Hargrove wakes to a view he's stopped seeing. Floor-to-ceiling windows frame a sunrise over a skyline he owns pieces of, but has never truly looked at. Everything in his world is curated, controlled, and expensive. The coffee machine is Italian. The furniture is Danish. The art on the walls has names he can't pronounce but prices he can recite. He moves through this space like a man walking through a museum of his own life, touching nothing, feeling less. 23 years old, and he's never heard the word no, not in any way that mattered. His father, Sebastian Hargrove, built an industrial empire from ruthless acquisitions and calculated charm, the kind of man who shakes hands at charity galas and forecloses on families the next morning without blinking. Sebastian raised his son the same way he ran his business, with efficiency and distance, teaching him that sentiment is weakness and that the world is divided into two types of people, those who take and those who are taken from. Lennox learned the lesson well, maybe too well, because he wears his privilege like a second skin, so comfortable he doesn't even know it's there. His mornings are routines of excess, private trainer at 6, breakfast prepared by a chef he's never thanked, meetings he attends but doesn't contribute to, his presence more symbol than substance. He's being groomed to inherit, but there's a hollowness to it all, a performance without passion. He drifts through luxury gyms where everyone knows his name, private lounges where the same faces smile the same smiles, gated parties where the champagne is vintage and the conversations are shallow. He mocks a waiter for bringing the wrong brand of sparkling water. He ghosts a woman after a single date because she asked too many questions about his mother. He makes a joke at a board meeting about people who settle for mediocrity, and the room laughs because they're supposed to, not because it's funny. His cruelty isn't loud or violent. It's casual, reflexive, the kind that comes from never having to consider consequences. He doesn't see people, not really. He sees functions, roles, background noise in the story of his life. And that makes him more dangerous than someone who hates, because Lennox doesn't hate anyone. He simply doesn't see them at all. But there's someone who sees him, every single night. Her name is Althea Garner, and she works the night shift at Hargrove headquarters, moving through the hallways like a ghost in a pressed uniform that's too big for her shrinking frame. She's 71 years old, though her hands look older, gnarled and shaking when she grips the mop handle. Her knees ache, her back stiffens, but she doesn't complain, never has, because complaining requires someone to listen, and Althea learned a long time ago that women like her are meant to be invisible. She cleans the marble floors where executives walk without looking down. She polishes the glass walls of conference rooms where decisions are made that will never include her. She empties trash cans filled with discarded drafts of emails that cost more in lost time than she makes in a week. And every night she pauses in the executive wing, in front of a portrait that hangs between the elevator and the corner office. It's a painting of a young woman, mid-30s, elegant in a way that money can buy but pain can't hide. Dark hair swept back, eyes that look past the viewer as if searching for something just out of frame, a smile that doesn't reach those eyes. The nameplate reads, "In memory of Victoria Hargrove, beloved wife and mother." Althea stands in front of that portrait longer than she should, longer than her supervisor would allow if anyone was watching. Her lips move silently, words that might be a prayer or might be an apology. Her hands tremble. She steadies herself against the wall, takes a breath that sounds like it costs her something, and then she moves on, pushing her cart down the hallway, where the portraits of powerful men stare down at her as if she doesn't belong, because she doesn't. Not in their world, not anymore. But she used to. The first time Lennox notices her, it's a Thursday evening in late September, the kind of night where the city feels like it's holding its breath before the cold sets in. He stayed late at the office, not because he has work to do, but because he's trying to impress a potential investor from Singapore, a man twice his age who keeps checking his watch and clearly isn't impressed. Lennox is in the middle of a pitch he's rehearsed but doesn't believe in when he sees her, the old woman with the cleaning cart, moving slowly down the hallway outside the glass-walled conference room. She's in his line of sight, a distraction, and he loses his train of thought. The investor notices. The moment sours. When the meeting ends with a handshake that feels like a dismissal, Lennox steps out into the hallway, and she's still there, moving at a pace that feels deliberately slow, as if she's trying to irritate him. "Excuse me," he says, not rudely, not yet, just with the tone of someone used to being moved around. She looks up, startled, and he sees her face for the first time. Weathered, tired, eyes that are too careful, too watchful. "Could you maybe work on another floor? I've got people coming through here tonight." She nods quickly, apologizes in a voice so soft he barely hears it, and moves her cart toward the service elevator. He doesn't think about her again that night. Why would he? But the next week she's there again. Same hallway, same slow pace. He's on a phone call, pacing near the windows, and she's cleaning the glass with a spray bottle and a rag. Her movements methodical, almost meditative. He snaps his fingers to get her attention, points to a spot she missed. She nods, goes back over it. He doesn't say thank you. The week after that, he's in a foul mood because his father criticized him in front of the senior staff, calling his quarterly report adequate, which in Sebastian's language means worthless. Lennox is walking fast, texting, not looking up, and he nearly collides with her cart in the hallway. He stops, glares at her. "Are you serious right now?" he says, louder than he needs to. "Do you not see me coming?" She stammers an apology, tries to move the cart, but one of the wheels is stuck. He sighs, exaggerated, the kind of sigh that says, "This is beneath me." And he walks around her, muttering something about efficiency and competence. He doesn't see the way her hands shake harder after he's gone. He doesn't see the way she leans against the wall, eyes closed, breathing like she's just run a mile. It becomes a pattern, a casual sport. He's there late more often now, not because he's working, but because the penthouse feels too empty, and the office feels like the only place where he has a role to play. And she's always there, moving through the hallways, and he's always finding reasons to be irritated. She's too slow. She's in the way. She's cleaning during hours when important people are still working. He makes comments, little jabs that he forgets as soon as he says them, but that land on her like stones. "Still here? Don't you have a home to go to? You missed a spot. Right there. No, there. Do I need to show you? How long have you been doing this? Because it seems like you'd be faster by now." He laughs sometimes, not cruelly, just casually, the way you laugh at a minor inconvenience. And she never fights back. She apologizes. She nods. She moves on. But she watches him always, with an expression he can't read. It's not anger. It's not fear. It's something else. Something that looks like grief, and it unsettles him in a way he doesn't want to examine. What Lennox doesn't know, what he can't know because he's never asked and no one has ever told him, is that Althea Garner watches him the way a mother watches a child from a distance, the way someone watches a ghost of a person they used to know. She sees the shape of his face, the way his hair curls at the edges, just like his mother's did. She sees the coldness in his voice, the dismissiveness in his gestures, and she recognizes it because she saw it before, years ago in her own daughter. Victoria. That was her name before she became Victoria Hargrove, before she reinvented herself in private schools and corporate circles and charity luncheons, before she met Sebastian and married into a world that required her to erase where she came from. Althea raised Victoria alone in a 2-bedroom apartment in a neighborhood where the sirens never stopped, and the heat only worked half the winter. She worked 3 jobs, sometimes 4, cleaning houses and offices and hotel rooms, her hands raw and her back bent, all so her daughter could have something better. And Victoria was smart, brilliant even, The kind of smart that gets you scholarships and opportunities if you're willing to work twice as hard as everyone else. She got into a good high school, then a better college, and somewhere along the way, she started changing. She stopped bringing friends home. She stopped talking about where she was from. She started speaking differently, dressing differently, erasing the accent and the mannerisms and the memories. Althea didn't blame her. How could she? She wanted her daughter to escape, to have the life she never could. But escape came with a price, and the price was distance. When Victoria met Sebastian Hargrove at a corporate networking event, Althea knew what it meant. She saw the way her daughter's eyes lit up, not with love, but with possibility. Sebastian was older, established, and powerful. He was everything Victoria had been working toward. And when they got engaged, Victoria sat her mother down in that same small apartment and said the words that would break Althea's heart in a way that never fully healed. I need you to understand something, Mama. Sebastian's world is different. His family, his business, they have expectations. And I can't bring my past into that. I can't bring you into that. Not in a way that's visible. Althea didn't understand at first. She thought her daughter meant she'd be a quiet presence, a background figure at the wedding, a grandmother who visited on holidays. But that's not what Victoria meant. I need you to let me go, Victoria said, and her voice was steady, rehearsed, like she'd practiced this. I need you to let me be someone else, Althea begged. She pleaded. She asked to be part of her daughter's life, part of her grandchild's life when Victoria got pregnant a year into the marriage. But the answer was always the same. Silence. Lawyers. An agreement that Althea signed because she had no choice. An agreement that said she would stay away, that she would make no claim, that she would disappear. And she did, for years, until the day she got the call that Victoria was dead. An aneurysm, sudden and brutal, no warning. She was 36 years old. Althea stood outside the funeral gates, unable to enter, watching from a distance as they lowered her daughter into the ground. She saw Sebastian, stone-faced and composed. She saw the boy Lennox, only 8 years old, confused and silent. She wanted to run to him, to hold him, to tell him that he had a grandmother who loved him, even though he didn't know she existed. But the security guards were watching, and the agreement was still in place. And so she stood there in the rain, invisible, grieving alone. Years passed. Althea grew older, smaller, more invisible. She kept working, kept cleaning, kept moving through a world that didn't see her. And then one day, she saw a job posting for a night janitor at Hargrove headquarters. She applied not because she needed the money, though she did, but because it was a way to be close to him, to see him, to watch over him from a distance, the way she couldn't when he was a child. She got the job, and for 3 years, she's been there, moving through the hallways, cleaning the floors, watching her grandson grow into a man who looks like her daughter but acts like his father. Watching him become cruel without knowing it. Watching him dismiss people the way his mother dismissed her. And every night, she stands in front of that portrait, the one of Victoria, and she whispers the things she never got to say. But Lennox doesn't know any of this. He doesn't know that the woman he mocks is his grandmother. He doesn't know that every insult he throws is a wound that reopens a grief she's carried for 15 years. He doesn't know that she watches him not with resentment, but with a desperate, aching hope that somewhere inside him, there's a piece of the daughter she lost, a piece that can still be saved. He doesn't know. Not yet. It's a Tuesday night in October when everything changes. Lennox is in his father's office, waiting for Sebastian to finish a call. He's bored, scrolling through his phone, half listening to his father's side of the conversation. But then he hears a name that makes him look up. Garner, Sebastian says, his tone clipped. Yes, the old woman. She's still here. No, there haven't been any issues. She knows the terms. Lennox frowns. He doesn't recognize the name, but something about the way his father says it, the way his voice drops, makes him pay attention. Sebastian ends the call and notices Lennox watching. What? Who's Garner? Lennox asks. Sebastian's expression doesn't change, but there's a flicker of something, a hesitation so brief Lennox almost misses it. No one. A personnel matter. Doesn't sound like no one. Sebastian sets his phone down. leans back in his chair. It's handled. Don't worry about it. But Lennox does worry about it because his father never tells him not to worry about something unless it's something worth worrying about. After Sebastian leaves, Lennox stays in the office, and that's when he sees it. A file on the desk, left open, careless. The name on the tab, Garner Althea. He shouldn't look. He knows he shouldn't, but he does. Inside the file, there's a personnel record, a photograph, old and faded, clipped to the first page. It's a picture of two women sitting at a kitchen table. One of them is young, maybe 18, with dark hair and eyes that look familiar. The other is older, smiling, her arm around the younger woman's shoulders. Lennox stares at the photograph. The younger woman looks like his mother. No, not looks. It is his mother. Younger than he's ever seen her, wearing clothes that don't match the story he's been told, sitting in a kitchen that looks nothing like the world she married into. And the older woman. He's seen her before. Recently. His stomach drops. He flips through the file. There's a birth certificate, an address in a neighborhood he's never been to. A legal agreement signed 15 years ago with his father's signature at the bottom and a clause that makes his blood run cold. Party A agrees to relinquish all claims to contact or visitation with the minor child, Lennox Hargrove, in exchange for financial compensation and employment security. Party A, Althea Garner, the old janitor, his grandmother. The woman he's been mocking, insulting, dismissing for months is his grandmother. Lennox's hands shake as he closes the file. His mind is racing, trying to piece together a story he's never been told, a history that's been hidden from him his entire life. His mother had a mother. His mother came from somewhere. And that somewhere, that someone, has been here all along, cleaning the floors he walks on, invisible by design. He thinks about every interaction, every careless comment, every time he makes her apologize for existing in his space. He thinks about the way she looked at him, that expression he couldn't read, and now he understands. It wasn't grief for a stranger. It was sad for him, for what he'd become. He feels sick. He leaves the office, walks through the hallways, and there she is, at the far end of the corridor, pushing her cart toward the service elevator. He stops, frozen, watching her. She doesn't see him. She's moving slowly, carefully, and for the first time, he sees her, really sees her, the way her shoulders curve inward, the way her hands grip the cart like it's the only thing holding her up, the way she pauses, just for a moment, in front of his mother's portrait, and the way her lips move in a silent conversation with a ghost. He wants to call out to her. He wants to run to her. He wants to fall to his knees and beg for forgiveness, but he can't move. He can't speak. The distance between them feels infinite, unbridgeable, a chasm built from years of silence and cruelty and choices he didn't make but benefited from. She gets into the elevator. The doors close, and Lennox is left standing alone in the hallway, the weight of recognition crushing him. Everything he thought he knew about his life, about his family, about himself, is a lie. And the truth is standing right in front of him, has been all along, waiting for him to finally see it. But now that he sees it, what does he do? How do you apologize for a lifetime of invisibility? How do you bridge a distance that was built by the people you trusted most? How do you face someone you've hurt when you didn't even know they were there? If you've ever realized too late that the person you dismissed was the one who mattered most, if you've ever discovered that your privilege was built on someone else's pain, if you've ever wondered whether some distances can ever truly be closed, then you need to hear what happens next. Hit that subscribe button because this story is just beginning. And the hardest part isn't discovering the truth. It's learning to live with it. So here's the question that will haunt Lennox for the rest of his life. The question that might haunt all of us if we're brave enough to ask it. What do you owe someone you never knew you were hurting? And is there any apology big enough to cover the cost of years spent invisible? Lennox doesn't sleep that night. He can't. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees that photograph. The two women at the kitchen table, his mother young and unguarded in a way he's never seen her, and the older woman with her arm around her shoulders, smiling like she had no idea what was coming. He sees Althea's face in the hallway, that expression he couldn't read, and now it makes perfect sense. She wasn't looking at a stranger. She was looking at her daughter's son, The grandson she was forbidden to know, the child she watched from a distance while he grew into someone who treated her like she was nothing. The shame is physical, a weight in his chest that makes it hard to breathe. He sits in his penthouse as the sun rises over the city. The same view he's seen 1,000 times, but now it looks different. Everything looks different. The glass walls that used to feel like power now feel like a cage, and he's trapped inside with the truth of what he's done, what his family has done, what he's been complicit in without even knowing it. But knowing changes everything, doesn't it? Or does it? Because the question that keeps circling in his mind, the question that won't let him rest, is this. What do you do when you discover that your entire life has been built on someone else's erasure? How do you face someone you've hurt when the hurt goes deeper than words? When it's woven into the very structure of your existence? He needs answers. He needs to understand. And there's only one person who can tell him the truth, even if that person has spent the last 23 years being silenced. But first, he needs to know everything. Lennox spends the next 3 days like a man possessed, digging through his mother's belongings, searching for pieces of a story he was never told. His father keeps a storage unit in the building, climate-controlled and locked, filled with boxes of Victoria's things that were packed away after she died. Lennox has been there once, maybe twice, always with Sebastian, always supervised. But now he goes alone, using the key code his father doesn't know he has, and he stands in that sterile room surrounded by the remnants of a life he thought he understood. There are boxes labeled in his father's precise handwriting: Victoria, clothing; Victoria, personal items; Victoria, documents. He starts with the documents, pulling out files and folders, birth certificates and diplomas and medical records. And there at the bottom of the box, he finds a shoebox wrapped in brown paper, sealed with tape that's yellowed with age. He opens it carefully, like he's defusing a bomb, and inside he finds letters, dozens of them. Envelopes addressed to Victoria Hargrove at the penthouse address, but the return address is always the same. An apartment in a neighborhood called Riverside, a part of the city Lennox has driven past but never through. The envelopes are unopened, every single one, still sealed, and the postmarks span years. The first one is dated 3 months after Lennox was born. The last one is dated 2 weeks before his mother died. His hands shake as he opens the first letter. The handwriting is careful, deliberate, the script of someone who learned to write in a different era. "My dearest Victoria," it begins, "I know you said not to write, but I can't help myself. I need you to know that I'm thinking of you, that I'm praying for you, that I'm so proud of the woman you've become, even if I can't be part of your life the way I want to be. I saw a picture of the baby in the newspaper, the announcement. He's beautiful. He has your eyes. I wish I could hold him. Just once. I wish I could tell him that he has a grandmother who loves him, even though he'll never know my name. But I understand. I understand why you had to do this. I just hope that one day, maybe, things will be different. I love you, Mama." Lennox reads it twice, 3 times, and each time the words hit harder. He opens another letter, then another, and they're all the same. Gentle, loving, desperate. Althea wrote to a daughter who never wrote back, who never opened the letters, who kept them sealed like evidence of a crime she wanted to forget. But she didn't throw them away. That's the part that breaks him. Victoria kept every single letter, hidden in a box, wrapped and sealed, but kept. Like she couldn't bring herself to destroy them, even if she couldn't bring herself to read them. There's one letter that's different from the rest. It's not in an envelope. It's folded loose, tucked between 2 sealed letters like it was written but never sent. The handwriting is his mother's, shaky and uneven, like it was written in a hurry or in pain. "Mama," it says, and Lennox's breath catches because he's never heard his mother call anyone Mama. Never knew she had anyone to call that. "I don't know if I'll ever send this. I don't know if I have the courage, but I need to write it down, need to say it somewhere, even if it's just to myself. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what I've done, for what I've become. I thought I was escaping, but all I did was trade one prison for another. I thought I was giving my son a better life, but I'm terrified that I'm just teaching him to be like his father, cold and distant and incapable of seeing people who don't serve a purpose. I see you sometimes, Mama. I drive past the old neighborhood and I wonder if you still live there. If you still work those jobs that broke your back so I could have a chance. I wonder if you hate me. I wonder if you think about me at all. I'm sorry I became someone you couldn't recognize. I'm sorry I taught my son to be the same. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know if I can. But I need you to know that I never stopped loving you. Even when I stopped showing it. Even when I stopped being your daughter. I'm sorry, Mama. I'm so sorry. The letter isn't signed. It isn't dated. But it's there. Proof that his mother knew. That she regretted. That she carried the weight of what she'd done. And it crushed her. Lennox sits on the floor of that storage unit, surrounded by boxes and letters, and the ghosts of choices made before he was born, and he cries. Not the polite, controlled tears of a man who's been taught that emotion is weakness, but the raw, ugly sobs of someone who's just realized that everything he thought was solid is built on sand. His mother was ashamed. His father was complicit. And Althea, the woman he's been tormenting, has been carrying this grief alone for 15 years, watching her grandson become the kind of man who would mock her without knowing who she was. How do you come back from that? How do you even begin? He needs to talk to his father. He needs to confront the man who orchestrated this silence, who paid for Althea's invisibility, who made sure that Lennox grew up never knowing that he had a grandmother who loved him from a distance. But when Lennox storms into Sebastian's office the next morning, his father is calm, almost bored, like he's been expecting this conversation. You went through the storage unit, Sebastian says. Not a question, a statement. He's sitting behind his desk, reading something on his tablet, not even looking up. You knew, Lennox says, his voice shaking with rage. You knew she was here. You knew she was working in this building, and you let me... He can't finish the sentence. The words are too big, too terrible. Sebastian finally looks up, his expression unreadable. I let you what? Treat her like any other employee? She has a job. She does it. That's the arrangement. The arrangement? Lennox's voice rises. You paid her to disappear. You made her sign away her rights to know me, to be part of my life, and then you gave her a job here so she could watch from a distance like some kind of sick punishment. I gave her a job, Sebastian says, his tone flat, because she needed one. And I gave her proximity to you because she asked for it. The agreement was her idea as much as mine. Your mother wanted a clean break. I facilitated that. When your mother died, Althea reached out. She wanted to be part of your life. I told her that wasn't possible, but I offered her employment. She accepted. She knew the terms. She stays invisible, or she leaves. Those were the options. She's my grandmother, Lennox says, and saying it out loud makes it real in a way it hasn't been before. She's my family and you erased her. Sebastian leans back in his chair, studying his son like he's a problem to be solved. Your mother erased her, Lennox. I just maintained the boundary. Your mother didn't want that life, didn't want to be reminded of where she came from. She built something new, something better, and she didn't want the past dragging her down. I respected that. I protected that. And I protected you. Protect me? Lennox laughs, bitter and sharp. From what? From knowing that I had a grandmother who loved me? From understanding that my mother came from somewhere real, somewhere that mattered? From poverty, Sebastian says, and his voice is cold now, the warmth of a glacier. From mediocrity, from a life that would have limited you. Your mother understood that. She made a choice, and that choice gave you everything you have. It gave me nothing, Lennox says, and he means it. It was a lie. Sebastian stands, walks to the window, looks out over the city he's conquered. You're upset. I understand, but you'll see in time that this was necessary. The world is divided into people who make hard choices and people who suffer because they can't. Your mother made a hard choice. I honored it, and you've benefited from it your entire life. Don't throw that away because you're feeling sentimental. She's working as a janitor in your building, Lennox says, his voice breaking. She's 71 years old and she's cleaning floors because it's the only way she can be close to me. And I've been... He stops, can't say it, can't admit out loud what he's done. You've been what? Sebastian turns, looks at his son with something that might be curious. You've been treating her like an employee? That's what she is, Lennox. That's what she chose to be. I've been cruel to her, Lennox says, forcing the words out. I've mocked her. I've insulted her. I've made her feel like she's nothing, and she never said a word because she couldn't, because you made sure she couldn't. For the first time, something flickers across Sebastian's face. Not guilt, not regret, but something close to discomfort. That's unfortunate, he says finally, but it doesn't change the facts. She signed an agreement. She's bound by it. If you approach her, if you disrupt the arrangement, I'll have to let her go. And I don't think you want that. It's a threat, clear and simple. Stay away, or I'll take away the only thing she has left. Lennox stares at his father, and for the first time in his life, he sees him clearly. Not as a titan of industry, not as a man to be admired or feared, but as something smaller, something hollow. A man who's built an empire but lost his humanity in the process. You're a coward, Lennox says quietly. You hide behind agreements and arrangements, but you're just a coward who can't face the mess you've made. Sebastian's expression hardens. Get out of my office. Lennox leaves, but he doesn't go far. He can't, because now he's caught in an impossible situation. He knows the truth, but he can't act on it without risking the one thing Althea has left, her job, her proximity, her ability to watch over him even if he never knew she was there. So what does he do? How does he navigate a situation where every move feels like a betrayal? He starts by watching her, not in the way he did before, with irritation and dismissal, but with intention, with a desperate need to understand. He changes his schedule, stays late at the office every night, positions himself where he can see her without being seen. He watches the way she moves through the hallways, careful and deliberate, the way she pauses at his mother's portrait, the way her hands shake when she thinks no one is looking. He follows her one night, keeps his distance, watches as she leaves the building and takes the bus to Riverside, to a neighborhood where the buildings are older and the streets are quieter. He watches as she climbs the stairs to a third-floor apartment, slow and painful, each step an effort. He waits until the lights come on in her window, and then he moves closer, stands across the street in the shadows, and he sees her through the window. The apartment is small, neat, everything in its place. There's a couch that's seen better days, a table with 2 chairs, a kitchen barely big enough to turn around in, and on the wall there are photographs. He can't see them clearly from this distance, but he knows what they are. Pictures of his mother, pictures of him, clipped from newspapers and magazines, moments of his life that Althea has collected like treasures. She sits at the table, and she's holding something, a frame, and she's looking at it with an expression that breaks him. It's grief, yes, but it's also love, the kind of love that survives distance and silence, and years of being told you don't matter. He wants to knock on the door. He wants to go up there and tell her that he knows, that he's sorry, that he wants to make this right, but he can't. Not yet, because he doesn't know what right looks like, doesn't know if there's any apology big enough to cover the cost of what's been done. So he goes home and he starts planning. If he can't approach her directly, he'll find other ways. He'll make her life easier, even if she doesn't know it's him. He goes to HR the next day, requests that Althea's schedule be lightened, her pay increased, her benefits improved. He frames it as a company-wide initiative, a review of compensation for long-term employees. But everyone knows it's about her. The changes go through. But 3 days later, he gets a call from HR. Althea has refused the changes. She's requested to keep her original schedule, her original pay, her original terms. She said she doesn't want special treatment, the HR director tells him, confused. She was very insistent. Lennox hangs up, and he understands. She doesn't want his charity. She doesn't want anything from him that comes from guilt or pity. She wants what she's always wanted, to be close to him, to watch over him, to love him from a distance, because that's the only way she's been allowed to love him. And that realization is worse than anything else, because it means he can't fix this with money or power or gestures. He can't buy his way out of this. He has to face it, face her, and he has no idea how. The tension builds over the next 2 weeks. Lennox is unraveling, and everyone can see it. He stops going to meetings. He stops returning calls. He sits in his office, staring at the walls, replaying every interaction with Althea, every careless comment, every moment of cruelty. His father is furious, calls him weak, tells him to get over it, but Lennox can't. He won't. And then one night, he makes a decision. He's going to talk to her. He's going to break the agreement, risk his father's wrath, risk everything, because the alternative is living with this silence, and he can't do that anymore. He waits in the hallway, near his mother's portrait, the place where Althea always pauses. He's rehearsed what he's going to say, practiced the words 100 times, but when he sees her coming, pushing her cart down the hallway, all the words disappear. She sees him. She stops. For a moment, they just look at each other, and he sees the recognition in her eyes, the fear, the hope, the grief all tangled together. Althea, he says, and his voice cracks on her name. She shakes her head, quick and sharp, a warning. You shouldn't, she whispers. You can't. I know, he says. I know who you are. I know what happened. I know everything. Her face crumples just for a second, and then she pulls it back together, that careful mask she's worn for so long. Then you know you need to stay away, she says, her voice barely audible. You know the rules. I don't care about the rules, he says, stepping closer. I care about you. I care that I've been... He can't finish. The shame is too big. Don't, she says, and there are tears in her eyes now, but she's not letting them fall. Don't apologize. Don't make this harder than it already is. How can I not, he says, desperate. How can I just pretend I don't know? How can I go back to... Because you have to, she says, and her voice is firm now, stronger. Because if you don't, I lose this. I lose the only thing I have left, which is being able to see you, even if you don't see me. And I can't lose that. I won't. He stares at her, and he understands. She's not asking for reconciliation. She's not asking for acknowledgement. She's asking him to let her keep loving him from a distance, because that's all she's ever been allowed to have, and she's terrified of losing even that. I can't do that, he says. I can't just walk away. Then you're not doing this for me, she says quietly. You're doing it for yourself. To make yourself feel better. And I don't need that. I don't want that. The words hit him like a punch, because she's right. Part of this is about him, about his guilt, about his need to fix something that might not be fixable. What do you want? He asks, his voice breaking. Tell me what you want, and I'll do it. She looks at him for a long moment, and then she says the thing that destroys him. I want you to be happy. I want you to be kind. I want you to be the man your mother hoped you'd be, not the man your father made you. That's all I've ever wanted. And then she turns, pushes her cart toward the elevator, and leaves him standing there alone. Lennox doesn't follow her. He can't, because he realizes that this isn't about a single conversation or a single apology. This is about becoming someone different, someone worthy of the love she's been giving him all along without him knowing it. But how do you become that person when everything you've been taught, everything you've believed, has been a lie? How do you rebuild yourself when the foundation is rotten? And here's the question that should terrify all of us, the question that cuts deeper than any confession. What do you do when the person you've hurt doesn't want your apology, doesn't want your guilt, but simply wants you to be better? And what if you don't know how? If you're still watching, if you're feeling the weight of this story the way Lennox is feeling the weight of his choices, then you need to stay with us. Because what happens next will either break him or remake him. And the only way to find out is to see this through to the end. Hit that like button if this story is hitting you where it hurts, and drop a comment telling me, have you ever discovered a truth about yourself that changed everything? Because that's where Lennox is right now, standing at the edge of a cliff, and the only way forward is to jump. The distance between who we are and who we could be is measured not in miles but in choices, and Lennox is about to make the choice that will define the rest of his life. But will it be enough? Will it ever be enough? Stay with me, because the hardest part of this story is still to come, and you won't want to miss what happens when recognition finally breaks silence. So here's the question that keeps Lennox awake for the next 7 nights. The question that follows him through every empty room of his penthouse, every silent hallway of his father's empire. How do you become someone you've never been taught to be? How do you learn kindness when you've been raised in cruelty? How do you build a bridge across a distance that was designed to be permanent? Because Althea's words won't leave him alone. She doesn't want his apology. She doesn't want his guilt. She wants him to be better. And that's harder than any confession, harder than any grand gesture, because it requires him to dismantle everything he's been and rebuild from the ground up. The first thing Lennox does is stop going to the office. Not forever, but long enough to think, long enough to understand what he's actually fighting for. His father calls him weak, calls him ungrateful, threatens to cut him off, but Lennox doesn't care anymore. The money, the power, the empire his father built, it all feels hollow now, built on foundations of erasure and silence, and he doesn't want to be part of that anymore. He spends his days differently now. He volunteers at a community center in Riverside, the neighborhood where Althea lives, where his mother grew up. He doesn't tell anyone who he is. He just shows up, does the work, listens to people whose names he learns and whose stories he actually hears. He serves meals to families who remind him of what his mother must have been, what Althea sacrificed for. He tutors kids who are brilliant and hungry and fighting against systems designed to keep them invisible. And slowly, painfully, he starts to understand what privilege cost him. Not just what it cost Althea, but what it cost him. The ability to see people, the ability to connect, the ability to understand that worth isn't measured in bank accounts and board positions, but in the quiet dignity of people who keep showing up, even when the world tells them they don't matter. But understanding isn't enough, is it? Understanding doesn't undo the harm. Understanding doesn't close the distance. 3 weeks after that conversation in the hallway, Lennox makes a decision that will change everything. He goes back to his father's office, but this time he's not asking for permission. He's not seeking approval. He's drawing a line. Sebastian is in a meeting when Lennox walks in, doesn't knock, doesn't wait. There are 3 board members sitting around the conference table, all of them older men who've known Lennox since he was a child, who've watched him grow up in this world of glass and power. "We need to talk," Lennox says, and his voice is steady now, no longer shaking with rage or shame, just clear and certain. Sebastian's jaw tightens. "We're in the middle of something. This can't wait," Lennox says. He looks at the board members. "Actually, you should all hear this." Sebastian stands, tries to take control. "Lennox, this isn't the time." "I'm stepping away from the company," Lennox says, and the room goes silent. "Effective immediately, I'm relinquishing my position, my shares, my claim to the inheritance. All of it." One of the board members laughs, nervous and confused. "You can't be serious." "I'm completely serious," Lennox says. He's looking at his father now, and there's no anger in his expression, just a kind of sad clarity. This empire was built on people like Althea Garner, people who were used and discarded and made invisible so that people like us could pretend we earned what we have. And I don't want it anymore. I don't want to be part of a system that requires someone else's erasure for me to succeed. Sebastian's face is stone. "You're making a mistake." "No," Lennox says quietly. "I'm correcting one. My shares, my inheritance. I'm putting it into a trust, a foundation that will fund education, housing, and fair wages for service workers. Starting with every janitor, every cleaner, every person who works in this building and gets treated like they're invisible. And Althea Garner will be the first beneficiary." "You can't do that," Sebastian says, but his voice lacks conviction. "I can," Lennox says, "and I am. The lawyers are already drawing up the papers. You can fight it if you want, but it'll be public. And I don't think you want the story of how you paid your grandson's grandmother to disappear becoming headline news. It's not a threat, not exactly, but it's close enough." Sebastian knows what publicity like that would do to his carefully crafted image, his empire of charm and ruthlessness. The room is silent. The board members are looking at each other, uncertain, uncomfortable. And Sebastian is looking at his son like he's seeing him for the first time, or maybe like he's seeing him disappear. "You're throwing away everything I built for you," Sebastian says finally. "No," Lennox says. "I'm building something you never could, something that doesn't require someone else to be invisible for me to be seen." He leaves the office, leaves the building, and he doesn't look back, because looking back would mean second guessing, and he's done with that. He's done with the world his father built, done with the person that world made him. But the question remains, will it be enough? Will any of this be enough to bridge the distance between him and Althea? He doesn't approach her again, not directly. He knows she doesn't want that, knows she's terrified of losing the small space she's carved out for herself, but he makes sure she knows what he's done. He has the foundation documents delivered to her apartment, along with a letter. Not an apology, because she said she doesn't want that, but an explanation. Althea, he writes, and it takes him 17 drafts to get the words right. I can't undo what I've done. I can't give you back the years you lost, the relationship you should have had with your daughter with me. But I can make sure that what happened to you doesn't happen to anyone else. I can make sure that people like you, people who do the work that holds the world together, are seen and valued and treated with the dignity you've always deserved. This foundation is named after my mother, Victoria Garner Hargrove, because she should have been proud of where she came from. And I want to honor that. I want to honor you. Not because I'm trying to earn your forgiveness, but because it's the right thing to do. Because you were right. I need to be better. And this is me trying. I hope that one day, if you're willing, we can talk. Really talk. Not as a grandson seeking absolution, but as two people who love the same woman and lost her in different ways. Until then, I'll keep trying to be the man you said my mother hoped I'd be. Thank you for watching over me, even when I didn't deserve it, especially when I didn't deserve it. Lennox. He doesn't know if she reads it. He doesn't know if she tears it up or keeps it or throws it away. But 3 days later, he gets a response. Not a letter, but a message delivered through the foundation's lawyer. Just 4 words. She would be proud. And Lennox breaks down in a way he hasn't since he was a child. Because those 4 words mean more than any fortune, any empire, any inheritance ever could. But the story doesn't end there, does it? Because reconciliation isn't a single moment. It's a process, slow and painful and uncertain. 2 months pass, the foundation launches. The first checks go out to service workers across the city, not just at Hargrove headquarters, but everywhere. A program that guarantees fair wages, health care, education benefits. The press covers it, calls Lennox a philanthropist, a visionary, but he doesn't do interviews, doesn't take credit. He just does the work. And one evening, as winter settles over the city and the first snow begins to fall, he's at the community center in Riverside, helping set up for a holiday meal, when he sees her. Althea standing in the doorway, wearing a coat that's too thin for the weather, her hands clutching a small bag. Their eyes meet, and for a moment, neither of them moves. Then she walks toward him, slow and careful, and he meets her halfway. They stand there in the middle of a room full of people who are laughing and talking and living their lives. And the distance between them feels smaller than it's ever been. I didn't think you'd come, Lennox says quietly. I almost didn't, Althea says. Her voice is soft, but there's strength in it. But I wanted to see it. What you're doing. I wanted to see if you meant it. I meant it, he says. I mean it. She nods, studies his face, and he sees something shift in her expression. Not forgiveness, not yet, but maybe the beginning of it. Maybe the possibility. Can I show you something? He asks. She hesitates, then nods. He leads her to a wall in the community center where there are photographs, dozens of them, pictures of people who've been helped by the foundation, stories of lives changed. And in the center, there's a portrait. It's the photograph from the file, the one of Althea and Victoria at the kitchen table. But it's been restored, enlarged, and framed beautifully. Beneath it, there's a plaque. In honor of Althea Garner, whose love and sacrifice built the foundation for everything that matters. Althea stares at the photograph, at her daughter's young face, at her own smile from decades ago, and tears stream down her face. She doesn't try to hide them. I wanted people to see you, Lennox says, his own voice breaking. I wanted them to know that you matter, that you've always mattered. She reaches out, touches the frame with trembling fingers, and then she turns to him. She loved you, Althea says. Your mother. She loved you so much. She just didn't know how to show it. She didn't know how to be both the person she was and the person she became. I know, Lennox says. I understand that now. Do you? Althea asks, and there's a challenge in her voice, gentle but real. Do you understand that love isn't always enough? That sometimes the distance is too great, the hurt too deep? I do, Lennox says, and I'm not asking you to close that distance. I'm not asking for a relationship we never had. I'm just asking if maybe someday we could start building something new. Not as grandmother and grandson, because we don't know how to be that, but as two people who are trying to honor the same memory. Althea looks at him for a long moment, and then she does something he doesn't expect. She reaches out and takes his hand. Her grip is weak, her skin paper thin, but it's real. It's a connection. We can try, she says. We can try. And that's all he needs. Not forgiveness, not absolution, just the possibility of something new, something built on truth instead of silence. They sit together that evening at a table in the community center, surrounded by people who don't know their story, who don't know the weight of what's happening, and they talk, not about the past, not yet, but about small things, the weather, the food, the people around them, and slowly, carefully, they start to learn from each other. It's not a fairy tale ending. It's not a moment where everything is fixed and the pain disappears, but it's a beginning, and sometimes a beginning is enough. Over the following months, they meet occasionally. Coffee at a diner in Riverside, walks through the neighborhood where his mother grew up, conversations that are sometimes easy and sometimes painful, where Althea tells him stories about Victoria as a child, about the girl she was before she became someone else. And Lennox listens, really listens, and learns about the mother he never truly knew. And he tells her about his own journey, about the work he's doing, about the person he's trying to become. And she listens too, with that same careful attention. And sometimes she smiles, and sometimes she cries, and sometimes she just nods, and it's enough. Sebastian never speaks to him again. The empire continues without him, cold and efficient, and Lennox doesn't miss it. He builds a different kind of life, one measured not in acquisitions and board meetings, but in connections and impact and the quiet satisfaction of knowing that he's making a difference, even if it's small, even if it's just one person at a time. And Althea, she retires from her job at Hargrove headquarters, finally after 40 years of cleaning other people's spaces. The foundation provides her with a pension, with health care, with dignity. She moves to a better apartment, one with an elevator and heat that works and windows that let in light. And on her wall, she hangs that photograph, the one of her and Victoria, and next to it, she adds a new one. A picture of her and Lennox at the community center, both of them smiling, the distance between them finally tentatively beginning to close. Because here's the truth that Lennox learns, the truth that maybe all of us need to learn. You can't undo the past. You can't erase the harm you've caused or the years you've lost, but you can choose every single day to be better, to see people, to honor them, to build something new on the ruins of what was broken. And sometimes, if you're lucky, if you're willing to do the work, the people you've hurt will give you a chance, not to be forgiven, but to be different. And that chance, that possibility, is the most precious thing in the world. So let me ask you this, and I want you to really think about it. Who in your life have you made invisible? Who have you dismissed or overlooked or taken for granted because it was easier than seeing them? And what would it cost you to finally truly see them? Because this story isn't just about Lennox and Althea. It's about all of us, about the ways we participate in systems that make people invisible, about the ways we benefit from silence and distance and erasure without even knowing it. And if this story has moved you, if it's made you think about your own life, your own choices, your own distances that need closing, then I need you to do something for me. Don't just watch and move on. Take action. Leave a comment right now telling me about someone in your life who deserves to be seen. Someone you've overlooked, someone you want to honor. Write their name. Tell their story. Make them visible. Because that's how change happens, not in grand gestures, but in small acts of recognition, one person at a time. And if you believe that stories like this matter, that emotional truth and human connection are worth fighting for, then subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to hear it. because the distance between who we are and who we could be is measured in choices, and every single one of us has the power to choose differently. The question is, will you